Hi, this is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle, and today we're going to do one by request. I've been requested to do an FX rear drag Shimano reel, and in this case I selected the FX4000RA, but this will apply to the 2000 series as well. And rear drag reels are one of the least expensive of all of the reels in the marketplace. They are an interesting lot. They're made by several manufacturers. I just pulled a Daiwa reel that has the same principles, and there's also here's an Abu Cardinal, also same principle. And what I'm going to do on this reel will apply to all of them. Maybe some minor exceptions in there, but they're all pretty much the same basic reel. These include a fast cast or an easy cast feature that when you reel and it resets to lock the anti-reverse, it always comes back to your thumb. And your cast is by taking your thumb and at the cast point releasing the bail so that the line frees, and then tripping the bail by turning the handle so that you're never touching the reel or reel bail or the line. I know a lot of us still use it, traditionally by manually flipping, but in this case this is set off with that easy cast feature, and most of these rear drag reels have that. They also have the spool that just simply removes by the button. I'll take that off now since I've already just pointed that out. And in this case, there are no bearings in this reel. There are 3 bushings. So I'll show you how to service this reel. Even though it's an inexpensive reel, it still needs to be maintained through oil and lubrication. And we'll show you those points to do that, and we'll also show you what makes it different from a conventional top drag reel. So I start by removing the handle and the handle nut. I like to put the handle nut back into the handle just so I don't lose it. And I also like to put all of my pieces and parts into a parts basket. In this case, that's an old milk jug bottom, but that helps me to keep those things where I can find them for reassembly. In this case, we have 4 side plate screws. This is a graphite case, I believe. I'm going to take those out, and the first thing I do, you're going to notice I'm laying them on my table here. And I'm going to do that because I want to make sure that all of those screws are the same size and dimension. In this case, so far they are. But sometimes manufacturers use a different screw in one of the side plate holes. Maybe it's got a less depth, or maybe it's a machine screw as opposed to a rough threaded screw or something. And you want to make sure, if that's the case, that you know what hole that one came out of. In this case, all 4 of those screws are the same. I'm going to go put that into the side plate, and then I should be able to remove this. And I did, and I'm noticing that this is the first bushing on the reel. Okay, so we have 3 plastic bushings here. Again, that's one of the reasons why the expense is low. This isn't a brass bushing, it's not a bearing, it's simply a plastic bushing. The other thing to notice is that this bushing has tabs on it, and those tabs seat into the side plate. If you do not put those tabs into those seats, the bushing will ride proud, and when it rides proud, you will not be able to get that side case back onto the assembly. And I believe that's going to be the same case on the other side as well. Okay, we took this out. We see we have a clean reel, but it needs lubrication. So that's the idea. Regardless of what the price of the reel is, you do need to maintain it and have it greased and so on. So let's do the top of the reel, then we'll come back to the bottom. I like to get that shaft out of there before I go to the bottom, because the drag may have pressure on it, and if the drag has pressure on it, then you can't get the whole drag assembly out. So let's start by taking that shaft out. That's held in place by a clip. This is an interesting little clip, but I've seen it many times. There's 2 grooves on the shaft, and it's held together with this little clip here that's held in with a retaining screw. So you notice the way that came out. There's a high and a low on this. It's not a symmetrical clip. It has 2 channels in that clip, sort of like an H, and it sits this way on reinstall. So that reminds me to tell you to take pictures along the way. If you're not familiar with the reel you're working on, take pictures. That way it tells you the sequence. And also back to that schematic there, make sure that if you need it, you have it on hand as a reference point so that you know where the pieces and parts came from. Okay, I'm going to pull that shaft out then, because I removed that clip. That will enable me to pull the main gear out. There's a bushing behind there that's seated at the moment. We have a crosswind block, and we have a crosswind gear, and that's not any different than what you would see on the top drag reel. So we just want to make sure all of those are lubricated. And while we're at it, we're going to take the rotor off. Now the rotor does not have a nut like the top. In this case, the rotor has a retaining clip below here, so we're going to go pull that out, and that'll enable us to pull the rotor off and make sure that the assembly up top is correct. So one of the things you're going to see is we have a series of anti-reverses here. That one's loose. This is the anti-reverse gear that's operated by the lever. We want to make sure that that operates properly, and that is operating properly. We have a bushing underneath there, so that's just rubber, plastic. It doesn't need anything. And up top here we have a spring-loaded clip on the pinion gear. That rides in the channel of this this anti-reverse piece. So you need to make sure that that's properly seated when you go put it back. I'm going to do that right now. I'm going to put that on, and it rides in this groove here. So we're going to make sure that that's seated properly. Okay, and then we're going to check the teeth on the pinion gear, and that looks like it's fine. We're going to go put some grease on there. So I use a blue grease. In this case, I'm using a Penn Reels grease. Any grease from a major manufacturer of fishing reels or third parties is fine, as long as it's designed for fishing reels. I've said this on almost every video. I've seen a lot of different greases. Greases are the main preventive medicine against reel failure. You want to make sure you have the right grease. Okay, that little tab up there runs in this channel here. You just want to align that, and you can put that right back on. I have the anti-reverse engaged. There you go. Let's disengage that so that we can put this back in. There we go. And then we'll put the clip on. So that's all you have to do up top there. Most of the time, unless you're having a problem up top, you don't even have to remove that. You can gain access to this pinion gear just as it is there. You want to spin it to make sure it's spinning freely now, but no service is needed up top. So if you're uncomfortable with that anti-reverse mechanism or the like, you don't have to do anything there. Okay, we'll lubricate the back side of the crosswind gear. Now, if these were dirty, you would clean them off. This one's in good condition. It's not dirty. We're also going to lubricate the front of that. And you'll notice as I'm lubricating, I have a latex glove on. I like to keep the lubrications off my hand if possible. I would recommend that you do the same, just because it's a preventative thing, and why worry about it? Typical of a crosswind block, there's a slot in the back here. You want to get some grease in there, and then you want to set that over the stud on the crosswind block. You want to properly seat that. Okay, with that done, we want to make sure that the back bushing is properly seated, and we can put a little bit of grease on the back end of the main gear. Check all the teeth on the back of the drive gear. Make sure that the ones that drive that crosswind gear are all in good condition. They are. And same idea here. Put a little bit of grease on the back of the main gear as well. That's going to ride with that pinion gear that we just greased. And we can put that back in place. Again, if that bushing is not seated properly, you will not get the case cover to close. Okay, let's go down below now. I'm just going to keep that stuff in place. There's a screw that holds the adjuster cap into the main carrier. Then we can unscrew this. And again, most of the time these will pretty much be the same regardless of manufacturer. Then underneath here there is a clip that holds that in place. Let's see if we can have any success getting that clip out. Sometimes it's easier than others. Sometimes not. It's a little spring. Calls for a little dexterity, which I'm short on. Sometimes I need to use something like this to push it out. But I'll go back to a saying that I've seen many times. In real repair, you need 2 or 3 things. Kind of a little bit of a mechanical knowledge. More importantly, a sense of humor and patience. Okay, so I pulled that clip out. And here's what I like to do. I like to set these up in the order that they came out when I'm servicing these, just because it tells me how to put them back in. So there's the retaining clip, the carrier, there's the bottom washer for the drag spring, there's the drag spring, and then there's a series of stack nuts here. And you just saw me tap gently, tap on wood, don't bang it on metal. Okay, this is the drag stack now. So we have the next washer, which is the top of the spring. Top of the spring, drag washer, eared washer, drag washer, eared washer, felt washer on the drive, and then we have a felt washer up top here. This is the drive that's going to put the tension on the shaft that's going to hold the shaft in place. So just quickly on the reassembly then, take that felt washer, that one gets oil. Felt washers get oil. The other ones are composite material that don't need that. And I'm going to go start by putting this back in because we have eared washers and there's slots here. So we're going to go ahead and put that back in first. And then we can put the washers back in just as we took them out. So there's an eared washer here which goes next. And you got to get those in the slots. Sometimes easier said than done. And we've got the composite. We don't need to do anything with the blue washers. The eared washer goes next. Again, got to ride in those slots there. The eared washer has those little tabs on it. And you'll notice I'm using a pin because I need to get a little bit more reach there. Blue washers next. And again, you can see these either in the way that you took them out, but let's just say if you're playing along with me, you took them out and they shot all over the place when you took them out. You can always go to the schematic and that'll tell you the sequence of these. Okay, the spring went back in. Here's your bottom clip now. Bottom clip goes in, sits over the spring, into the recess, grab the retaining clip. That one snaps back in on the grooves there. Oops, everything backwards. There's a channel here that shows. All right, so thinking I have that backwards. Sometimes these don't work, they only work one way going in, so I'm just going to check this because that looks a little proud there. And if you have it proud, you can't get that adjuster cap back on properly. And it looks better. I was seeing that this clip came out a little bit further. We can screw this on then. Put this back in. Again, this goes into the bottom assembly, that's the carrier assembly. Then all we have to do is button the top of this up by reinstalling that shaft. Now the shaft has got a D-clip on the end of it. You need to make sure that it gets through the carrier properly. And then you need to line up those 2 little grooves where that clip goes. We made a note on the clip that the screw holder is up top. I want to properly set that. Then we have the retaining screw for the clip. Those of you that watch my videos know I have some trouble with these. Hopefully we'll get this sooner rather than later. And that one actually cooperated with me. Okay, we're going to grab the blue grease and we're going to put a little bit more lubrication on the back end of this, on the main gear. So the reels are inexpensive, but they're designed for freshwater fishing for the most part. There's a nice feature here with the Easy Cast. The downside of the Easy Cast is it's not instant auto reverse. So if you get a hit and that hasn't reset, sometimes the slack in the line will break the line off because of the pause before it does go back to reset to anti-reverse. Some people tell me that is a problem, and I can see why that would be. But overall, the reel is a nice caster. In this case, it doesn't have ball bearings, but it does have the other features that you won't find on the top side drag reel. The bottom side has plenty of drags in it. You saw there were 4 drags, 2 felt and 2 of the composite drags. So that's plenty of drag power in this particular reel. You may find that if you go into an Abu or a Daiwa or maybe even some of the others, you have more or less drags. Not that important for freshwater fishing, but that is a way to adjust the tensions in this particular reel to enable you to make it work properly. So, okay, so we're going to just put that handle back on now. And we'll snap that spool back in. We'll give it a test ride here, see how we did. But to keep it properly maintained, keep the lubrication in there, make sure that you oil the parts that need to be oiled, and there you go. So we're in fine shape here, and again, that's it's instant anti-reverse, Easy Cast feature. So yeah, that's how we do it. And then for the drag, if you tighten that up, yep, the spool doesn't move and you're on your way. So I hope that's helpful to the fellow that requested this. I hope that's given you the inspiration to go ahead and do this one for yourself, and to keep your reel properly maintained for fishing for years to come. So with that, if you like this, please indicate that you like it. If you want to see more, please subscribe to my channel. This is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle. Thank you for viewing.